All right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM. Joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego, actually a bit overcast to be honest. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Claire Giovino, who is just up the road in San Francisco. How are you doing, Claire?
Good. How are you, John?
Excellent, excellent. And Claire is the co-founder and CEO of Inbox Done, a service that helps leaders reclaim their time by delegating low-leverage tasks and focusing on high-impact work. You have a background supporting entrepreneurs, executives, professionals across various industries, and advocates rethinking productivity through day design, a holistic approach to combining delegation, structured systems, and intentional focus to boost energy, clarity, and decision-making. All right, and here's what we're going to talk about today, basically focused on designing your perfect day. So, what does explain day design to me? What does that mean?
So, Annie Dillard is famous for saying, how you spend your days is how you spend your life.
Hmm.
So, it's one of the first questions I always ask people as I'm getting to know them, because I think we can say that one thing is important to us. We can say we prioritize an area, but our days really reveal our priorities. And as important as it is to do a budget for your money and to track your calories, if that's something you're focused on, everybody should be tracking time at least once in their life, just to get a real grip on where the time is actually going. I do it every January myself. That's what I recommend to our clients, is to do it once a year, just as a check-in. But even just doing it once just gives you a really clear idea of if the little steps you take every day are actually building toward the goals and aspirations that you have. Energy management is a big part of this too. There's a lot of focus on time management, not as much focus on energy management. So
Mm.
you can also allocate different types of tasks in different parts of your day, depending on what your energy is doing at that time of day.
Yeah, because it's really interesting. Because I've had this for a while, where people say to me, "I'm busier than I've ever been. I'm so busier than I've ever been," and I always challenge that by saying, "Are you though? Or are you more distracted than you've ever been? Because we have more distractions available to us. We have things we never had. Our little narcissistic friend here, can is always going, look at me, look at me, look at me." And I always say, what you were just saying there. I would say, I wonder if we did one of those old-fashioned time and motion studies, where somebody with a one man in a white coat with a clipboard and a stopwatch stood behind you, how much time would he find in your day that you're wasting on distractions?
Exactly, and not to demonize the
Mhm.
occasional scroll. We
No,
we
no, of
all need
course.
our
No, no,
forms of escapism, of
absolutely,
course,
absolutely.
but yeah, I literally just use an app called Hours Tracker, and it's literally exactly that, and then I add little comments about what the time went to. You can create tags to tag the time blocks, and then especially starting at the beginning of the year, you get to then expand it from just day design to what is
Mhm.
your ideal week, month, year.
Yeah. So when you work with executives, what is one of the surprising tasks or whatever that they hang on to that they shouldn't?
Email. A lot of executives think that they are the only person who can respond on a certain topic because they're the only person who has their wealth of expertise,
Mhm.
their decades in the industry. And of course, in the beginning of training an assistant or whoever you're bringing on, that is the case. But the goal is to take the information, if you're interested in delegation and reclaiming your time,
Mhm.
taking the information out of your brain and creating kind of a mini me or a clone. And I haven't seen a case yet where a topic or a task can't be delegated with a little bit of training. And we forget, because we've been steeped in it for so long, what the actual steps are to complete a task. Because that's really what it is. Every task is just a decision, either a micro
Mhm.
or a macro decision.
Yeah, and you also have to be careful too. Sometimes people delegate things, but they don't give it the clarity and all of that, and then they go, "See, should have just kept it myself." But the reality is, they set up the person they delegating it. They didn't set them up for success at the beginning.
Exactly. And it's a little bit of a catch 22 because you
Mhm.
have to give a little bit extra time in the beginning to
Yeah.
get back so much more time for the rest of your life. But that is exactly it. Yeah, and we almost when if we have a hard time letting go, I know a lot of the clients we work with, the executives, the founders, love to be the people who have the answers and love to
Mhm.
be the problem solvers. And so there's almost a kind of satisfaction in some confirmation bias
Yeah.
when a little mistake does happen. It's like proves to you, see, I knew it.
Yeah,
Only I
yeah.
can do this.
Just faster to do it myself. That's what always comes back at you, right? And tell me, the concept of deep work zones. How do you identify a deep work zone, and then how do you make sure that you properly set yourself up to take advantage of it?
Most people know theirs, if you're more of a morning productive person, afternoon, evening. But you can just also look at your days and see when your output is highest. Mine is like 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. is where I'm always going to get the best work done. So kind of right in the middle. And then there's just logistical things like putting your phone on do not disturb or airplane mode. Just having your phone in sight, to your point,
Mhm.
reduces productivity something like 15 to 20%. Just having it in sight. So getting it out of the room that you're working in. And then it's actually, for lack of a better word, training the people in your life about what they can expect from you. So when you are in a focus block, maybe you put that in your family shared calendar or your shared
Mhm.
calendar with the partner, and they know that that's just a time you're unavailable,
Yeah.
or your teams.
Yeah. One of the best ones is that whole thing of like, Claire, I just need 1 minute. Okay. Just 1 minute of your time to ask you a question. Seems reasonable, right? Takes you 20 minutes to get back on track afterwards. So I have just stolen 20 minutes, not 1 minute from you. And I think those are things that people need to be aware of as well.
Absolutely. It takes so much time to re-enter that deep focus, and you have to fight for it, right? You have to
Hmm.
safeguard it like your life depends on it. But in those cases, it's either literally just don't even look at the messages, the requests for 1 minute of your time until you are in the block in which you do that.
Hmm.
Uh, or if you're responding, give them options like, well, I can't do that, but you can have this or this, and then they get to choose.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. But I think you have to. But there's one thing, you have to be intentional about these things, because everybody wants to be helpful and people love being asked, for their input and their expertise. But you got to realize that it comes at a cost too.
Yeah, it really does, John. It's actually a little bit of an ego death of
Hmm.
letting that go.
Yeah,
Because I definitely love, to be the problem solver and have the solutions. And it just is being okay with that being someone else and empowering them, giving them the agency to do that.
yeah. Tell me about energy management. How do you advise executives on energy management?
Well, identifying your most productive block and then
Hmm.
safeguarding it, blocking out everything else, that's a big one. And then deciding what tasks are going to go in those blocks. So, what are the tasks that move the needle the most? It's often calls with your leadership team, coaching your leadership team, calls with big relationships, or strategic thinking. That creative time where you're strategically doing the things that create the biggest results and move the needle most. And then really just being honest with yourself about when your energy is lagging, when it's in a valley, knowing when to stop because you're just going to get diminishing returns.
Hmm. And I think that's a really important thing. But again, if I take my experience that I've grown up in corporate America, but let's face it, over the years we celebrate stress, we celebrate first in, last out, all of these kind of crazy things, and the thought of like taking breaks or recharging your energy during the day or whatever like that, that's alien to some cultures, say. But it's so important for you, because how do you I think that people don't spend any time with themselves, in their thoughts. Yeah. So even if you take a break, don't take a break on your phone. Like, maybe just take a break and just maybe be with nature, whatever it is, but allow the noise to go away for a bit. But that's something that you have to embrace as a culture in an organization.
Oh, yeah. I've tried so hard to get into meditation for that exact reason, and
Mhm.
I found that a walk does
Yeah.
just as much for me, and I challenge, myself and others, try a headphone-less walk,
Yes.
just, 10 minutes around the block. You can usually squeeze that in, to in your margins, but I agree, we have for so long worn the who's most stressed, who's not taking their PTO as
Yeah.
this badge of honor, And I do think that is starting to shift. I think it's
Yeah, yeah.
becoming less of a medal than it used to be. But it's also, if depending what your setup is, tracking everything and quantifying and showing that, look, if I do have these breaks and these
Mhm.
designated blocks, my output and productivity is this much higher, and here's the data to prove it.
Yeah. No, but that's a great point because sometimes people think, oh, yeah, they'll say, oh, you're going to meditate before you start. That's great for people who can do it. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I admire them. I envy them. But like you said, meditation takes on a lot of different forms, and walking meditation, you don't have to be like trying to block, just walking without your headphones and just taking in whatever's going on. That's a fantastic form of meditation. And because I used to do walks and stuff and do jogs, whatever, with headphones on and everything, and the difference when you stop doing that is actually quite incredible.
absolutely. And has become my meditation, but it's
Mhm,
mindfulness. And then I love stacking, like combining goals into one. So if you do a 5-minute walk after a
mhm.
meal, now you're lowering your blood
Yeah.
sugar. Plus, you're getting your mindfulness. And then I get some of my best ideas while I'm on those walks because I've opened up my mind to actually ponder.
Mhm. How have you changed the way you work since, being a co-founder and a CEO and, like, building your own business? How has this personally impacted you?
It's changed my whole life, and I want it for everybody. So I only do calls Tuesdays to Thursdays. Mondays and Fridays are pure creativity. So no one
Mm,
has access to me on those days. I don't check messages on those days. Obviously, it took time to get there.
sure.
There is freedom that comes with being the founder and the owner, where you can shape things that maybe you can't necessarily as an employee. But I do think the design your perfect day applies to, whatever your current setup is. Apply it right now and then graduate to new levels as you change things and tweak things, in the areas that you want to grow. But those are the biggest things. And so I get to really, they say we really can only do 4 true hours of deeply focused work a day. And so this 9 to 5, 8 hour day
Mm,
is so much chit chat and Slack messaging and distractions, to your point, that my work days are so dense
mhm,
that even if the hours aren't, maybe I've worked a 15-hour week, every minute of those 15 hours has been maximized. Most of what I'm doing now is signing off, and making those higher stakes decisions. But yeah, what it's really given me is those 2 full days, bookends to my week, for full creativity and no noise, no
mhm.
communication.
And what you're talking about too, I think it has become even more critical if you think about how work is organized today. I mean, you have some people in physical locations. Maybe they're there all the time. Maybe they're there part time. Maybe they're 100% remote. Whatever. But maybe if you're working remote and you're working virtual for the first time, or you're new to it, you have to organize your life again, because let's face it, you're wherever you live is full of distractions.
Absolutely. And with that becoming more the norm now too. So we have a document in at Inbox Done that you fill out when you join, called How to Work with Me.
Hmm.
And so specifically to your point, it's, here's when you can expect me to be online within these time frames. Here's how I like to receive feedback, either very direct or give me a compliment first. I use lots of exclamation points in my messages, or none at all. So now I know to never take those personally.
Mm,
And normally, almost everything in a completely remote setting, you can attribute to busyness. It is so rarely personal. But just starting off like that, it's been an invaluable resource, because then when it comes time to give feedback, you can point back to, based on what you shared, for how you'd like us to share feedback. I want to honor that. And it's been really helpful.
yeah, no, I love that. I think that's great. I think every organization should do that, because I mean, my advice always to people is to have that conversation, with your manager, with your company, and say, like, if you're working remote, saying, here's it's a negotiation, obviously, but here's how I can be most effective here. How does that fit with you? Blah, blah, blah. You negotiate, and everybody then is on the same page. And then what you said, the bit about feedback, I mean, again, we live in a time now, I think, because we've got so many generations in the workplace and so many different ways of people consuming, feedback or information, that you have that you one way of delivering a message is no longer, even if it ever was, but certainly today it no longer works. So you have to understand the people you're dealing with.
Absolutely. And as you know, that now uh, proliferation of AI generated messages has
Yeah,
added a new component where you can kind of spot like when this has come from a quickly generated prompt. And
yeah.
and so now it's like, bots communicating with bots, and like where's the human element here? And so there's a whole new level to it in remote communication, but absolutely accounting for all the different backgrounds
Mhm.
and generational differences. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of AI, I mean, AI has been a phenomenal productivity to, I mean, it's for me, I mean, I use it extensively and like in very deep levels and stuff. Um, but how do you think people can make sure that they're leveraging AI properly and they're not just using it as a shortcut and they're actually becoming less productive or maybe a little lazier because this is great now. I'm not so busy because I'm just offloading all this stuff out here, but I'm not really doing it strategically and I'm not really being careful about it.
Yeah, think, at least for now, AI is still only as good as the human
Mhm.
managing it. And so that's a huge part of how do all these different platforms integrate with each other and overlap, and how are they being maximized? And ultimately, then, if it's removing this portion of decisions from your plate through these AI tools, then what is that time being replaced with? The
Yeah.
higher level strategic thinking. So I think at least at where it's at now, it's replaced kind of those lower tier decisions and tasks, to the point where they become essentially obsolete. And so now it's interesting to see how that's restructuring roles like executive assistants, which is
Mhm.
what Inbox Done supplies.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're just looking for the blend of never losing the human touch, and then how to integrate the AI platforms to make you as efficient as
Mhm.
possible.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Inbox Done. How does that operate?
So our hidden pain point is that we do all the hiring for you. I know I'm
Mhm.
sure a lot of your listeners know the feeling of wading through the Upwork and the Fiverr and the Indeed, hundreds and hundreds of applications for people who aren't actually qualified. So we
Mhm.
remove all of that, based on what you're looking for and your criteria. We find you the perfect match, of an executive assistant, and we actually give you two. And that's so that there is never a lapse. If one person needs a long vacation, you always have coverage. If one person
Mm.
needs to move on for some reason, you always have coverage. And it works amazingly well. And they can, you have two brains working for you. And so then there's a handover period where that cloning handover
Mhm.
happens, like I mentioned, and they're just extracting and withdrawing as much information that lives in your head onto into SOPs. So that's
Right.
another great part is
Yeah.
if you decide not to work with us, you still get to retain all of the knowledge bases and everything, basically your second brain
Mhm.
that they've created for you, or you can continue delegating to them. And it starts in the inbox because that gives us so much context for every business, but then you can expand out from the inbox as much as you'd like.
Yeah, and given today, the Upwork and just the vast amount of resources available, I mean, it's phenomenal because it has really changed. It's changed the way work happens in many ways. You no longer have to hire somebody for a job and then realize that it's actually only half a job. And now you have this person and you're giving them extra work because you need to fill up those 5 days, right? When really all you needed was two. And so it's giving you access, but the issue then, as you said, is the double-edged sword. You have access to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out there, and it's really hard to find the right ones.
And sometimes you do just need a one-off project,
Yeah.
and I love those platforms and have used them, but if you want the reliability and long-term
Mhm.
relationship, we also offer unlimited replacements. So, it's not, we get it pretty close the first time, but sometimes you need a new match, and that's built in at no
Mhm.
extra cost. So that's a fun perk.
Yeah. And where are you going next with the product?
Uh, this design your perfect day angle is really fun because that's
Mhm.
actually what it's allowed our clients to do. And
Yeah.
so I've been doing more speaking gigs. We're launching more webinars because we've been very referral based,
Mhm.
and basically grown through our referrals. But doing conversations like these, which is really fun, leading perfect day webinars and workshops. Just to show people that for not much buy-in, you can completely transform your calendar and your day-to-day with that
Yeah, and
delegation.
it's fantastic, and I think it's well needed because, like I said, I mean, people have this perception of being so overloaded now. It's stressing and everything. Anything that can help people organize themselves and be more efficient, I think, is a great thing. So, all of Claire's information to be below this video. But before we go, I mean, you did, but just remind people again about Inbox Done.
Yeah, it's inboxdone.com if you want us to find you your perfect assistant, or you can go to inboxdone.com/playbook, and that's our manual for if you want to do it yourself. So if you just want to learn how to delegate to an assistant. And ultimately, it's helping you get back to what matters most, helping you find your unique contribution, how you want to spend your precious
Yeah.
hours every day.
Absolutely. And that's at the end of the day, that's where the satisfaction comes when you're able to focus on the things that you really, really want to do.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thanks, Claire. Thank you for watching and listening. And I will see you all again very soon. Thank you.